You won't find this Civil War story in a history book. Ken Burns never heard of the Confederate spy, Rachel Pruitt Richardson. Until recently, there was no video on YouTube or post on a blog that documented what happened with rogue Union soldiers on the Pruitt Farm in 1862, not far from Memphis, Tennessee. As new facts are learned, historians verify and document these stories and share them with the world. This is the story of an attempted murder, an unsuspecting spy, and a modern-day metal detector who uncovered an artifact tied to that fateful 1862 event at a farm in Grand Junction, Tennessee. Welcome to Talk with History. I'm your host, Scott, here with my wife and historian, Jen.
Hello.
On this podcast, we give you insights to our history-inspired world travels, YouTube channel journey, and examine history through deeper conversations with the curious, the explorers, and the history lovers out there. All right, Jen, so this was a very kind of, I don't want to say special, but it's kind of just different. We're trying to expand what we do, and I called it a short documentary about a truly unknown Civil War story, a piece of history that has literally just been passed down from family to family in, generation to generation, I guess 2 generations down, maybe 3. And it was so unique and so interesting and so fun that we'll kind of get into the details of what happened on the Pruitt Farm in Grand Junction, Tennessee, which is about an hour east of Memphis. Now, this was a farm. For folks who remember, Memphis had recently been taken by the Union, so it's kind of controlled in that area, right?
Grand Junction is a little bit east of LaGrange. We've done LaGrange. We've done Woodlawn, Garrison Raiders. This is a little bit east. Grand Junction, think of it, it's the perfect title. It's the junction of 2 railroads, right? It's the North-South Railroad and the East-West Railroad. It's the junction where they meet. So it's a very, very important logistical line, especially during the Civil War at this time.
Yeah, and if you think about it, they took Memphis because it was important being right there on the Mississippi. It was an important river spot. And then I believe not shortly thereafter, they're hauling butt over to Grand Junction because it's the junction of these 2 railroads. So logistics, if you know anything about the Civil War, that's what they're doing is they're taking these key logistical points. Yeah.
So the Battle of Shiloh is happening in April of 1862. Battle of Memphis happens in June of 1862. And those are both Union victories, right? So Memphis is going to be Union held then for the rest of the war. And then after Shiloh, you're going to get the Battle of Middleburg in August of 1862. And there is a Battle of Davis Bridge. And I think American Battlefield Trust has saved a lot of those acres. That's also right after Shiloh. So this is an 1862 kind of early Civil War time period. And what you have north of Grand Junction is a little area called Hickory Valley. And Hickory Valley, of course, has plantations on it, farmers on it. And this is where we find ourselves at the Pruitt home. Now, it will become the Richardson home, but in this time period, in 1862, it's the Pruitt home. It's the Pruitt plantation. And the Pruitts are enslavers. They have slaves there. And Rachel Pruitt is the daughter of the family there. And so this whole story kind of comes about. Again, it's passed down through family history, but it does have some artifacts along with it. And somebody got in touch with me saying, I know somebody who likes to metal detect. He likes to metal detect in the area. He's always looking up cool things. And I think it would be really great to do a story. So I was like, that's fine. That's great. It took a couple months for us to get in touch. We got in touch, and then his name is Mark. And Mark said, I have a friend who owns this area of land. His name is Thad Richardson, and he has this old house, and he's allowed me to metal detect around his house. And he has a story that goes along with what we're metal detecting. I was like, okay. And he goes, so why don't I set it up where we can go out and metal detect, and you can get the story, and then we can put this all together. So that's kind of what we walked into.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that this was kind of, you were connected via a friend, via someone you met, right? So it's not something we were actively seeking out, but it was just kind of a cool concept, and it was local, right? It was local. And so that was kind of part of the neat part of this process was you knew a little bit through kind of talking and texting with Mark, right? Mark, he's the gentleman that we met there. If you watched our most recent video, he's the one who does the metal detecting with us. And you had learned a little bit, so you kind of knew a little bit of the story. So we had, as we were going out, we were kind of talking about the story, and I was trying to kind of, get it all in my head. And then we knew we were going to talk to Thad on the phone while we were there. So we put it on speakerphone whenever Mark called him up, and Thad started telling you the story. So I kind of recorded it like a little mini documentary, which was really fun for me to kind of expand what we're doing here on the channel, something we want to do more of. So I recorded that speakerphone interview that you had with Thad as kind of the interview for, this short documentary. And then we would cut that in as we were talking about the home, which is still there. Right. And we have a picture of Rachel and, her family there, which was really neat. And then we would cut that in later on. We started, metal detecting, kind of like how they did during a documentary. So as I'm kind of trying to learn and flex my early documentary making muscles, this was a really fun one for me as well, because it was just a cool story, a cool spot. It was local, and we got to try something ever so slightly different.
Again, this is a family story that was passed down through the generations. We didn't really know it going in. Mark kind of knew a little bit of it, but that was why it was so important for us to call Mr. Richardson while we were there. Mr. Richardson is the grandson of Rachel Pruitt. His father was Rachel Pruitt Richardson's youngest child, and then that was his father.
Yeah, youngest of 10.
Youngest of 10. So large families through big periods of time.
Yeah, and Thad is now in his early 90s.
Yes.
So he is like, it's not like his great-grandmother was the one who witnessed this event. It was his grandmother.
Yes.
Which was, you don't come across that too often now. Like, that's not going to happen for too many more years.
Yes. And so we got this, we were listening to the story from him, and he's telling it, and I'm sure he's told it a couple times, but you have to understand that because this is a family story and people don't know what you want to do with their story, that they're kind of apprehensive about telling it. And bear in mind, this is a Confederate story. This is about a Confederate woman who becomes a Confederate spy. So we've had people ask us, are you Confederate sympathizers because you do this? We're not. We're historians, right? I've told Rose Greenhouse story. Rose Greenhouse was a famous Confederate female spy. This is just a true story of American history, and we want to make sure that it's accurate and it has documentation behind it, and make sure that those stories pass on. Grand Junction, Tennessee, again, 1 hour east of Memphis. I want you to think during the Civil War era, it's a big area. It's well populated. Nowadays, there's only about 330 people that live there. But this was founded in 1854. Again, the Memphis, Charleston, Mississippi Railroad lines are all there. And it has a 3-year occupation of the Union Army during the Civil War. And they strategically use this area. It becomes a contraband camp. So again, when all the enslaved run away, they set up a camp here for them. And you have some of the most decorated generals will come through Grand Junction, including Grant. So it's just a very famous area. So what you have happening in 1862 to the Pruitt Farm here is you have rogue Union soldiers who are basically, they're looking for any kind of...
They're kind of pillaging the countryside.
Yeah, they're looking for provisions.
Yeah, provisions. Right? They were looking for valuables, right? And these are Union soldiers. And I think somebody had asked us in one of the comments on the video was, they said, hey, I thought that Tennessee was a Union state. Well, Tennessee, and you've talked about this before, was very much mixed across Union and Confederacy.
So I want people to know that Tennessee is officially a Confederate state. It's the last state to leave the Union. It's the last state to join the Confederacy. And after the Civil War, it's the first state welcomed back into the Union. But like every state, and I make this very clear, it had people who fought for both sides. This is true of every state. Every state in the South had people who fought for the North and the South. And a lot of times in the North, you will have people who come down and fight for the South, just like Lee for instance. So you have people who have these strong loyalties to their different families. That's why this is very much a brother versus brother war, and everybody is American fighting, so it's American versus American. But what you have happening here in Tennessee in this area is the Union is holding this area, but there are Confederates that live out in the area. So the Union soldiers come scavenging for provisions and money and valuables. So they come to the Pruitt family farm. Now it becomes the Richardson family farm. And when we tell the story, Thad tells it as it's the Richardson family farm. And though we found out after the fact, we told you there would be more accuracy coming. Rachel doesn't marry Mr. Richardson, his father, Thomas Jefferson Richardson, until 1866.
Yeah, so after the war.
After the war. So she's a Prewitt this whole time. This homestead is the Prewitt homestead. When she marries Thomas Jefferson Richardson, he will move into her family's homestead. And I think her parents lived there until they die. So basically, it was like her dowry to have this land. He marries into this land. He's a farmer.
And it's the Richardson farm from there.
It's the Richardson farm from there on out. But at the time, it's Prewitt. So when he tells the story that his grandfather got hanged 3 times, we tell the story like it's Thomas Jefferson Richardson.
Yeah.
But it's not his grandfather. It's his great-grandfather.
And that's one of the things, too, is there was a couple people who actually kind of caught that mistake in the comments. I was actually pretty impressed that somebody had looked it up and they must have had access to genealogy.com or something like that, right? And they said, hey, Rachel didn't get married until 1866 later. And we actually replied, we're like, oh yeah, no, you're totally right. Because we had sent the early draft of the video to Thad and to Mark for them to watch it. And they watched it, and Thad actually reached back out to us. Now we were on Thanksgiving break driving down to Florida, but he said, hey, it wasn't the
it wasn't my grandfather.
It wasn't my grandfather. It was my great grandfather. And so you'll see if you watch the video, he actually says it, to us. He's like, no, it was my grandfather. He says that to us on the phone. So that's how we tell the story. Mm-hmm. But it was good. I think that he kind of, oh, nope, I made a mistake. He called us and we said, okay, great. We'll make sure we do a follow-up video. And that's part of history and being a historian and correcting, right? So we'll jump right in there. And I think I put in the top pinned comment, hey, we learned some more. Stay tuned to the podcast because we have some follow-up to this.
Yes. So Rachel Pruitt is living on this homestead with her parents, James and Elizabeth Pruitt. And there are other children there. Her brother, Joseph, the oldest, he dies young. Nathan becomes a doctor during the Civil War, so he's gone. There is another Thaddeus Prewitt. He also joins the military. He's gone. And so really Rachel is there with her parents.
She's like 19.
She's 19. She's the oldest sibling home. There's some boys, but they've gone and joined the war effort. And so when the Union soldiers come looking for the silverware, which they did bury, the enslaved did bury the silverware. We were able to see that silverware. We'll show a picture of it. Thad actually sent us pictures of that silverware. It's very basic silverware. It's not like what the ornate spoon we found with the ornate detailing. This was basic silver, just cut, and has a little bit of a design, but there's nothing embroidered or not fancy. And it looks like later in life, this was probably part of her dowry, and it was engraved with her initials, but with the Richardson initial. So probably at the time, it was probably not engraved and just silver. Yeah. And so the enslaved probably hid that silver in the ground around the house.
So they heard that these rogue Union soldiers were coming out, pillaging the countryside. Mm-hmm. So before the soldiers got there, they buried their valuables. And I think they even said like they buried the hams.
Yeah.
Or something like that, right? So the hams and the silver.
Yeah.
The Union soldiers got out there.
And so Rachel is there at 19 years old with her mother and her father. Her father's born in 1797. So you can imagine at this time, he's already almost 70 years old. And so they take him into the barn and try to hang him 3 times to find the whereabouts of the silver. So, and he will die in 1875. So you can imagine he probably never really recovers from this. And that's when Rachel Richardson is very motivated now to help the Confederates because she's seen what the Union has done to her father. Now, we want to also stress these Union soldiers were probably rogue. This was probably not sanctioned by any military to do this. You've seen evidence of this in the movie Gone with the Wind when the Union comes to Tara, and remember, Scarlett will shoot him. So this is just, both sides do this during the war. It's like all is fair in love and war. People pillage. People have to scavenge for food. They steal and they take what they can get during the time. This is what happened on the Pruitt farm.
Now, when you say tried to hang him, what does that mean? What made it unsuccessful?
So remember in the story, you can see they tried to hang him 3 times. They use a sack, like a potato sack.
Yeah.
And because they use the sack, it probably has threads and it's not strong. It breaks 3 times. And they're trying to hang him to find the whereabouts of the valuables, right? And he doesn't know it. And Rachel and her mother are probably the only women there with the enslaved, so they can't stop this. And so because they can't do it, they probably get him up and then it breaks, and they probably do it again and it breaks. And you can imagine a 70-year-old man they're doing this to. And so she's so motivated at this time then. She's a rider on a horse. She starts to carry secrets from this area of Hickory Valley, right by Grand Junction, all the way to Chattanooga. This is across the state of Tennessee.
Which drive time nowadays is like a good 4 to 5 hours at least. Back then, it was probably a couple-day ride.
Yes, and there is evidence of her doing this. There's actually documentation. There was an excerpt from a letter written from Chattanooga. Miss Rachel is going to start back to West Tennessee this evening. I expect to be sent by her and have a hurry. Have not seen her yet. Her company has been crowded with officers. She was there at a private officer party and will be on equal footing. And we are camped about 2 miles east of Chattanooga. Now, that came in a letter documenting what she did. I was also able to go to the Bird Dog Museum, which is there in Grand Junction, Tennessee. So this area is known for their bird dogs. Yeah. Like they breed these champion bird dogs.
And there's like a national gathering every year in Grand Junction just for bird dogging.
Yes.
It's a very interesting thing, and I'm very curious to try and go out sometime next year.
They do trial runs. They have these very famous bird dogs. And so this museum is dedicated to that story, that competition, those dogs. But in the Bird Dog Museum, they have Rachel Pruitt Richardson's side saddle. And it says that this saddle belonged to Mr. Richardson's grandmother because he donated it. Rachel Ann Hill Pruitt Richardson. Hill is her mother's maiden name. During the war for Southern independence, she played the piano in her home to entertain the Federal soldiers while the servants hid the hams and silver. It is said she rode her horse from Grand Junction to Chattanooga to warn family members there about the conditions in West Tennessee after Federal occupation began.
Yeah, so it was just so interesting because, like I said in the intro, you're not going to find this in a history book. You're not going to find this on the internet, probably anywhere other than our video and some news excerpts that you found, and you've done your research since then. You've gone through newspapers, local newspaper to the Grand Junction area. I think it's a Boulevard, something or other newspaper. So it's been very interesting to kind of look further into this and kind of do the work that historians do in researching an event like this.
Yes. And so when you watch our video, I'm standing on the same front porch when Rachel will marry Thomas Jefferson Richardson in 1866. He will move into that home and they will raise their family there. She's standing on that front porch. It looks like probably at his funeral, at Thomas Jefferson Richardson's funeral in the late 1890s.
Yeah, they're all in black.
Yeah, in the late 1890s. And she's standing right on the front porch. I take a picture of standing in the same location. And then you can see Thad's father is the youngest child in that picture.
And that picture was taken in 1896.
1896.
Yeah.
And so we decide to metal detect where the barn was. We take Mark and he's never metal detected where the barn was. He's done the back field where he found a ton of Civil War bullets. That's how we knew the Union definitely occupied the area. He's done around the house, but he never did where the barn was. So we're like, well, let's go out where the barn is. And if you watch our video, we find a spoon. We find a spoon.
A silver spoon.
A silver spoon, a nice ornate silver spoon engraved Mama Richardson.
Yeah.
From 1891. So not part of this story, but part of her story.
And it was so fun. Again, a little bit of behind the scenes here on the podcast is we had done kind of all the initial filming. We had already recorded the interview with Thad. So we'd been there for a couple hours. Mark had gone out and just started. He had just started, and we were recording some bits around the house because the house is getting run down. It's starting to fall down. And so we go out there. We're going to say, okay, let's go see what Mark's doing. And so we walk out there. We do a couple more kind of video clips out there just to show, because they had bulldozed the old barn. And so there's lots of like broken tin because it was a tin roof and stuff like that. And we show that. And then I see Mark kind of off in the distance. He's not talking to us, but I have him mic'd up. So I see him off in the distance starting to dig. And so I just kind of turn the camera on, and through my headphones, because I hear his metal detector going off, right? It's giving an audible beep. So I start walking over there, and he's digging around, and I got the whole clip. So like, if people think that it was staged, it absolutely was not, because you can see me record the whole thing. I don't stop at all. And we walk right up. I was like, what'd you find? And he's digging around. He's like, oh, I don't know. And he's digging. He's got this little trowel. And all of a sudden he pulls out, he's like, it's a spoon. He's like, it's a silver spoon. I was like, no way. I was like, is this from the story? So I like whistle at Jen. You can hear if you pay attention in the video. I whistle to get Jen to come over because she's kind of just poking around off to the side. So she comes over, and then we start cleaning the spoon off.
And I could see that it said Richardson. I just couldn't believe it. I was like,
it was so much fun.
It seemed so crazy. And it was one of those moments, I tell Scott, I really felt like Rachel wanted her story told. She wants her agency. So whether or not, again, she's a Confederate, what she's doing is against ethics, really, because we really want the Union to win here. She is taking her agency upon herself to spy. It's not common for a woman to do in 1862.
Yeah.
So I feel like she wanted her story told, and her motivations we can understand is because of what they did to her father. And so we found the spoon. It's from 1891. It is the only, we've already given it back to Thad. It's the only one that he has in that set. He actually looked up the kind of engraving and found that it was made in Memphis.
Oh, really?
And it was a super popular spoon.
And we were
style.
able to tell, because when we first saw the Richardson, we're like, oh my gosh, it's a Richardson spoon. And then on there it said Mama Richardson. We're like, oh my gosh, it's probably Rachel Richardson spoon. So we were just getting more and more excited. And then we saw there was like there was a stamp.
Yep.
It was like sterling, and then it said 1891. So that's how we knew it was from 1891, because it said it right on there. So in the video, we realized, okay, this probably isn't from the story, but it was Rachel Richardson's silverware, right? So it's one of her kids. We joke about it. Like, how did it end up out here? It's like probably one of her kids snagged it to go digging around out near the little pond, because there was a pond right where we were. Just out digging around, or ate lunch out there and just left the spoon there. Like 130 plus years later, we dig it up. It was crazy. It was so much fun. It was one of those things that I just kind of didn't know what to expect, and it just blew my expectations away, because it was a cool story. It's tied to the character from the Civil War. We caught it all on film. We put it all together in this little short documentary. It was just an absolute blast to make this.
And we found out some stuff after the fact as well. I want Thad Richardson had sent us a photograph of Rachel. She subsequently later in life looks like maybe after that photograph of 1896 was taken, maybe even a little later, she was given a medal from either the Daughters of the Confederacy or the Sons of the Confederacy.
Yeah, we don't quite know. We haven't found documentation on the medal itself, but that he has a picture of her with the medal.
With the medal. She's wearing the medal on the horse, and she looks very proud. So he says she was buried with that medal. So we don't know quite when she got the medal or what, but we know it was probably for her doing that ride back and forth from Hickory Valley to Chattanooga with the information. We also found these orders, these general orders that came from the Union in the area in 1863 in April, where it said undeserved privileges awarded to traitors within the lines. The bands of robbers in the area you need to watch out for include Richardson. So you can tell she probably was already working with Thomas Jefferson Richardson and their family to run secrets between the lines and to be helping the Confederacy. So this general order came out to the Union in 1863 about Bolivar, Tennessee, which is the town north of Hickory Valley, that you have to watch for the undeserved privileges awarded to traitors, and Richardson is one of them. Now, what I like about that is, of course, they recognize the men, but the women never get recognition. And Pruitt, Rachel Pruitt, she probably went undetected this whole time. They probably never even thought she was running any secrets, because a woman, that's why Rose Greenhow was so effective. That's why Confederate and Union female spies during the Civil War were so effective, is because no one feels like these women have any agency or know anything or can be of any use. And so she probably was using that to her advantage, so much so that it's not even detected in this general order, but the Richardson name is. She'll marry Thomas Jefferson Richardson in 1866 and then subsequently have all these children, including Thad's grandfather, or Thad's father. And then this story gets passed down. Thad still owns that land, if you want to see this video. And I'm still trying to uncover this medal and maybe some documentation around the medal, but we have a picture of her with the medal. We have more of this information. And it's just been really neat to try to piece this all together and tell the story. We went out to the cemetery after this, and Rachel is in the Grand Junction Cemetery along with her husband, some of her children. This is where Thad will eventually be buried, so we show you his gravestone as well. Her father, James Prewitt, is also there. So the man who actually was hanged 3 times is actually there as well. So this is a family story that has not been told anywhere else. And we were able to uncover an artifact kind of connected to the family. So it was just really neat to try to put this all together. And again, there's some stuff in the Bird Dog Museum. So it's kind of neat to be telling this entire story and piecing it all back together.
Yeah, it was just such a blast because it was so different, but it's tied to a topic that a lot of folks are interested in, including us, the Civil War. And it's local, and it's got a neat story, and we got to metal detect and dig some stuff up when we actually found something. It was just such an absolute blast. So if you guys are listening to this and you haven't watched the video, go ahead and look in the show notes, and I'll link the video there because it's a fun video. I'm actually pretty proud of it. It did much better than our average video. Just a ton of fun, and I encourage you guys to check it out. It's astonishing to think that such a dramatic event, an attempted murder, a desperate act of espionage, and a direct encounter with rogue Union forces could remain an undocumented whisper passed down through family for over a century. Yet that's the nature of history. It's often hidden, waiting for an artifact, a family diary, or in this case, a metal detector and a dedicated researcher to bring it back into the light. We owe a debt to people like Mark, who dug up the artifact with us, and of course, Thad Richardson, who told us the story of his grandmother, Rachel. Jen and I work hard to discover stories like that and try to ensure that the untold stories of individuals like Rachel Pruitt Richardson aren't lost to the dust of time. We often say to others, there is no right side of history. There's just history. It happened or it didn't. What we learn from it may be different for all of us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into an absolutely unique Civil War story. And don't forget to hit that free follow button. We'll talk to you next time. And until then, keep digging into history. This has been a Walk with History production. Talk with History is created and hosted by me, Scott Benny. Episode researched by Jennifer Benny. Check out the show notes for links and references mentioned in this episode. Talk with History is supported by our community at thehistoryroadtrip.com. Our eternal thanks go out to our lifetime members to help keep us going. Thank you to Doug McLiberty, Larry Myers, Patrick Benny, Gail Cooper, Christy Coates, Calvin Gifford, Courtney Sanini, Gene Noah, Larry Mitchell, Tommy Anderson, Susan Sulis, Bruce Lynch, and William Garner. Make sure you hit that follow button in that podcast player, and we'll talk to you next time.